Hello and welcome. This is a special edition of the Manifestation Mastery course. My name is Michael William Denney, aka Mahadeva, aka the Thunder Wizard. So today I want to talk to you about 3 simple steps that you can use to change your timeline. We live in a universe, according to physics, we live in a universe that is populated by infinite numbers of timelines, infinite numbers of dimensions. And there is a timeline and a dimension that is perfect for you. That is your highest, most amazing, wonderful world beyond what you can even imagine right now. And you have been programmed to think in a very limited way. All of us have. We have been programmed to think in a very limited way. And if we are able to learn how to change the way that we think about ourselves and our universe, you literally can change everything you can imagine in your reality. So I'm going to share with you 3 steps that can help you accomplish that. And I can promise you that if you follow my directions to the letter and if you do them consistently, you can have what I have. Everybody that's worked with me who follows my directions to the letter and does it consistently, their lives change. And so we're going to be talking about that. All right, so there are, as I said, infinite numbers of timelines. Now, there's something very, very recently in my mind that has changed about how I look at how to change timelines. Now, the steps to change them haven't changed. That's still the same, and I'm going to share 3 of them. 3 ways of changing the way that you think, very simple ways. They may not be necessarily easy, but they are very simple. They can be easy if we learn how to be fluid in our thinking, fluid in our thoughts. And if we're able to do that, my experience is that your entire world, your entire reality changes. And I've also experienced that even if the normal reality that everybody else shares is going on, that you can create a little bubble where you have this perfect reality brewing around you, even as you sort of travel through, the craziness and the imperfection that other people are experiencing around you. All right, so let's talk about that. So first, you've probably heard me say it, but I'll say it again. The way that this idea works is from physics. So this is coming from scientists, that in our reality, there are infinite numbers of timelines. And that the future is not at all certain. And that the reality that we live in is like a 3-dimensional hologram is continuously being projected into our reality. We have the experience that it's static, but it's not. And experiments like the one I'm sure you're familiar with, where scientists twice now have tried to figure out whether or not light is a particle or a wave. The conclusion that they've come to in both of these experiments, one was done decades ago and one was done fairly recently, the conclusion that they come to is that light responds to the intention of the observer. Not only that, but after it manifests, it then sort of checks to see what your intention was, and then it will go back in time, seemingly, and change the evidence to align with what you were expecting to have happen. So in other words, light doesn't know what it is yet until it's already hit its mark, and then it looks at you and says, what did you want me to be? Okay, I'll go and make sure that's how it looks like, what it looks like to you. What that means is that when you are able to change timelines, assuming that this is accurate and true with me, and I'm going to share with you a big secret about that. This will, if you're having a hard time accepting it and believing it, I'm going to share something with you that will give you the ability to just go with it and let go, and which will expand your ability to accept. It will increase your faith, if you will, however you want to look at it. I forgot what I was saying. What I was going to say is that, so when you are able to shift timelines, the universe isn't going to make it look like you all of a sudden disappeared and reappeared and the skies opened and, the Red Sea parted. That's not how the universe does this. It can be completely impossible and magical, but the universe isn't going to make it look that way. It's going to make it look like, well, of course that was going to happen all the time. That was what was supposed to happen. Because if life didn't work like that, we wouldn't get anything done, because we would just be constantly flipping out at how everything's changing. Because the reality is, whether you realize it or not, you are creating new timelines all the time. Every nanosecond, you are creating a new timeline. That's why it's so important to be responsible for what you choose to believe. I'm using my words very carefully. It's very important for you to be responsible for what you choose to believe. I'm being very clear. I'm not saying to you, your thoughts create reality. It's not what I said. It's very important that you take responsibility for what you choose to believe. You don't have a whole lot of control over your thoughts. You don't have a whole lot of control over your emotions. You do have some control over what you choose to indulge in, but thoughts that pop into your head, emotions that come to the surface, you don't have as much control over that. But you do have some control. If, like a muscle, you build it up. You do have some control to choose what you want to believe. Your assumptions about the universe. Okay? So, I want to get to the 3 steps here very quickly. Before I do that, I want to get to the thing that I said was really important and really special. As I said, there was a way that you could even if you can't believe this idea, I want you to be okay with that. So I realize I'm making a huge, seemingly magical, hyper spiritual statement. You can change timelines. There is an infinite number of timelines. There is a perfect timeline where your perfect happiness exists. And you can shift yourself into that timeline. I realize that is a huge, really magical, unrealistic sounding statement. I'm going to blow your mind right now. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. I want you to be okay with, I don't know if I believe that. I want you to be okay with that. It's okay if it's not true. If you can accept that it might not be true, and then at the same time act as though it is true, that is what is important. Listen, I teach a lot of stuff, and I experience a lot of stuff, and the stuff I'm talking about right now, this is the closest thing to religious faith. If you believe with all your heart, mind, and soul, blah, blah, blah. This is the closest that I get to that. But the times in my life when I have had the most empowering changes have been when I just don't believe it's possible, but I act as though it is. And that's what I mean. See what I mean? It's a mindset where you go, well, what if it were real? What if this would change everything? Because you got nothing to lose. So what? You try it doesn't work. Are you going to be any worse off than you are right now? No. If you don't have any attachment to the outcome, what's the worst that can happen? You'll end up right where you are. My experience has been that every time that I use these principles, my life changes in unbelievable, amazing ways. So, and I'm always going through it. And I tell you about it. I tell you about when I'm on the verge. I'm on the verge of stuff right now. We'll see what happens. But I don't know what's going to happen with my visa here. And last night I was really scared. I was looking things up and looking at what was going to happen, and I started thinking the worst possible things, and I got really scared. And I stopped and I went, so do I have any evidence that anything is going to be anything other than what I actually really want and what is really good for me? The evidence of my life up to this point is, as long as I use these principles that I'm sharing with you and do what I'm sharing with you, which is, even if I have a hard time believing it, act as though I do believe it, the absolute impossible, I end up getting it. And I might be able to come up with a way to explain it, but I'm not sure I completely understand it. So I want you to get rid of the idea that you have to understand it and that you have to believe it. Because remember what I've been saying all along, what's most important is that you take responsibility for what you choose to believe. That's the only power that you have. You don't have any power over anything else. You don't have any power over what you believe. You don't have any power over your doubts. You don't have any power, really over what's going to happen. The only power that you have is what you choose to believe. That's it. The assumptions that you adopt. All right? Okay, so I think you get the idea. All right, so what are the three things? First thing, identify your emotional attachments. This is when I talk about critical thinking. It's just another way of, you want to know why critical thinking is so important? You want to know why I spend so much time debunking all of the garbage? Not because I'm trying to take away your experience with the magical and with the unbelievable. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm actually trying to help you have the experience of the stuff that really is amazing and unbelievable. But another way to call critical thinking is being able to identify your emotional attachments. That means in any situation, anything. Are you able to identify your emotional attachment or revulsion or anything else in any given moment? Because that's key. If you're able to do that, then you've got an ability to then change how you want to react to that feeling, or you have then some power to make some choice about how you want to choose to believe in spite of that feeling. But if you can't, then what will happen is that you will be taken captive by that feeling. You will be taken captive by the assumptions, all of that, and you won't have any choice. You will then go into defense mode, and the only thing you will know how to do is to defend your position. So are you seeing? You see now, I do a lot of different things. You see me interact with people. Now you see when I take an aggressive stance against something or somebody, it's because of that. So I'm not just doing it to be a pain in the ass. It's because I can sense or I feel that there is a stubborn attachment on the other person's part that is actually limiting their ability to have access to this infinity. And I go to war against that. I do that because I want them to be able to have what I have. Maybe I don't do it perfectly, but that's why I'm doing it. I just recently had an interaction with somebody. Somebody didn't like me. I don't even know who it was, but apparently on a Q&A, I responded harshly and aggressively to their questions. And I don't remember what their questions were. If I saw, I'd probably be able to tell you why. And, this person was wanting to go back and forth about what an asshole I was. And sarcastically said, "I'm sorry I didn't ask the right questions." And I said, "I don't remember your questions, but I'm willing to bet it wasn't that you asked the wrong questions. It was that you didn't like my response. So if you don't have an emotional attachment to how I'm going to respond to you, that gives you power. That gives you power to listen to what I'm saying. And if you want to believe that something, if you think I have something of value, that's up to you to figure that out. not having an emotional attachment to what it is that I'm telling you, liking it or not liking it, gives you freedom to adjust around it. I'm just one person. I'm just coming up and giving you another life experience. This is what life is going to do to you. Life is going to respond in ways that you don't like. And you don't like it because you're attached to something else. You're attached to the way you think things ought to be, or what you want, or who you are, or what they are, or your ideas, or your assumptions. We have emotional attachments. We are emotional beings. So you can't be Mr. Spock and turn your feelings off. You have to have them. So the only other choice you have is to have them and not be attached to them, which is really kind of what Spock is. Leonard Nimoy's Spock. Really, I mean, that nobody will ever. That was some really great. Just everything he did about that was really great. And if you ask him about the character, even though the character says, "I don't have any feelings, I don't have any emotions," when you talk to, well, he's dead now, but when you talked to Leonard Nimoy about it, he would say, no, he has a lot of emotions. It's just that he chooses not to feel them and respond to them. And so the fun part is to have him struggle with his emotions. So you can't do that. You're not a Vulcan. You're a human. So you have to have your feelings. Because if you don't, then you go into denial. And if you go into denial, then you will act them out destructively, always without fail. That's how it works. If you don't have conscious awareness of all of your feelings, positive and negative, they will rule you. And you will be harmful to other people. Can't help it. It's the way things work. So that's step one. Identify your emotional attachments. Second one, this one sounds really simple. Be willing to release them. So I've already started talking about that. Be willing to release your emotional attachments does not mean deny your emotions. It means that you have that emotion really intensely, but you're willing to do something different, think differently, choose to believe differently. I've been spending a lot of time talking about victim mentality and talking about, people's emotional need to believe that they are victims. And that it really is that. It is a need to believe that they're emotional victims. So, if you are able, when I say something to you, and I am not the be-all and end-all, I make it very clear. I don't pretend to be the one and only truth in this universe. I'm just like you. I'm figuring this thing out as I go. But if you're willing, when I say something that totally shocks your whole reality, like if I tell you that reptilians don't exist in the way that you think they do, and that they can't control you or do anything to you, it's amazing how strongly and emotionally people react to that. They get furious with me when I tell them that nobody's controlling you. They get furious. Why do they do that? Because they believe that their survival depends upon them continuing to believe that. What they know is their experience is that they are being controlled by everything. And somebody has come along and said, oh, it's right, you are being controlled by them. That gives them a feeling of, oh, now I know who they are, I'm ahead of the game, I'm safer now. And I come along and I say, no, that's not accurate, nobody's doing it to you. That to them feels like I'm taking away their security blanket. I'm taking away, the life preserver. And now they have nothing. They don't know what to believe. So that makes them frightened, which makes them angry, which they come and attack whoever wants to destroy their whatever it is. So second one is be willing to release your attachment. Be willing to identify how afraid you are and how you are, that this belief that Jesus died on the cross for you, you pick it, whatever your belief is, acknowledge that that belief gives you a security, and you have a strong emotional attachment to your security. Now, that makes sense. That's understandable. We are all looking for that. So it's it's not like a mystery to me why, people get bent out of shape when I change the parameters for them and I tell them things they don't want to hear. That doesn't surprise me at all. I totally get it. But in my experience, that's the only way. That's the only way to expand beyond where you are. You've got to be willing to release your emotional attachment to your beliefs, to your assumptions, to all of it. Okay, so that's step 2. You got to be willing to release that emotional attachment, which means you got to be willing to step into the most frightening place you can imagine and not know what the hell is going on. Let me give you just another little secret. It's okay not to know what the hell is going on. The times that I have had the most power and I've done things, when I was training in the Taoist mystical arts and all that, and when I accomplished things that, humans aren't supposed to do, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I couldn't have told you why and how it was happening. I knew, I followed directions and I went into that place of emptiness and wow, how the hell did that happen? I don't know. It's okay. You don't have to know. You don't have to know what the hell is going on. All we're interested in is, are you getting the results you want? That's all we care about. It's the results that matter. That's another, another aspect of critical thinking. We're practical. We only care about the results. So that's step 2, is be willing to release your attachment. Here's I was trying to think about, I have the feelings of the 3 steps and I was trying to put them into words. And then I finally landed on a phrase that I really liked. Step 3, make your dream impossible. I don't want you to try and manifest what you think you might like. I think I could tolerate this. I want you to embrace something that you absolutely believe is totally impossible. I operate from my desires, my joy. I go after when I think about something and I go, God, I really want that. And there's no way I could have it. I continue, and I'm doing it again right now with all the changes that are happening. I go, you know what? That is totally impossible, and that's what I'm going to have. I don't know how, but I'm going to act as though that's how it's going to be. And it always does. My joy never lets me down. I know a lot of you have difficulty figuring out what your joy is. I get that. I get that you have a challenge with that. And that's part of what I do. That's like the career consultation. That's really what I'm doing, is I'm trying to help you, figure out where to align your compass and what the real joy is. And the joy, bear in mind, when you follow your joy, you are going to stimulate all of the self-sabotage and the blocks, karmic and otherwise, that are waiting to try and talk you out of it. It's going to be true when it comes to changing your reality. But step 2 is really important. If you're not willing to let go of your emotional attachments, and if you're not willing to go emotionally and mentally to the most frightening place you can possibly imagine, if you're not willing to do that, you will not be able to tolerate what comes up when your karmic blocks, the Christians will call it Satan. When Satan comes to tempt you. If you're not willing to go to a frightening place and understand that it's just a feeling, it's not going to kill me. If you're not willing to do that, you won't be able to survive the karmic and unconscious and psychological issues that will stand up to block you between you and your greatest joy. So I may be asking a lot of you when I say make your dream impossible. Take your dream like to what you think would be really good, and then, is there something else that I'd want, but I'm just not willing to believe that I deserve it? or that it's possible. I mean, I'm thinking about those kinds of things. There's some things in my life that I have that there's a part of me that goes, I don't deserve to have that. This house is one example. And when I first came here, when I first came to Australia, this was one of the first places I stayed, and I only stayed here for a week because it was too big. But when I look back on it, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And it's actually it's actually the cheapest possible. It's the cheapest possible rental I can have if I want a house here right now that has everything that I want. Now I deserve it. I deserve it. I walk around and when I have a really good day and I have just amazing things that I've never had before, I say, I deserve this. I earned this. I embrace this. Because I'm constantly looking to push my dream up beyond what is good, what is tolerable, what is acceptable. I want to go to the impossible. I want to continuously make my life, look, now that I've got all these gray hairs on my beard and now we've got this thing, people are dying all over the world and blah, blah, blah. Wow, this life is short. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste any time. I want to make sure that when I'm done with this thing, that I look back on it and I said, I lived the hell out of that life. There's nothing left that I could have done. I don't want to have any regrets. So for me, that means making my dream impossible and allowing myself to have the things I don't think I deserve or that I may even have shame about or I don't think are possible for me. Okay, so those are the 3 steps. Identify your emotional attachments to anything and everything. Always be willing to go, wow, that makes me feel like this. I really want her to love me, or I really wish he would go away, or whatever it is, I'm really attached to that idea. I have a strong feeling. I hate this. I like this. Be willing to identify those. Second, be willing to release them. When you identify them, then you can identify what your perception of your survival is, because we become attached to something because we think on some level, emotionally or physically, that our survival depends on it. That's why we're so attached to it. That's why we defend it. Even when somebody's coming along with something better, we will defend what we have because we have this mistaken idea that this is what we need to survive. And then third, make your dream impossible. Don't just settle for what you think you want or what you're willing to have. Don't compromise. Don't even go to, wow, that would be really great. Go, is there more? Yeah, I'd like that, but I've never really allowed myself to, should I have that? Should I? Make your dream impossible. Those things shift timelines because there's going to be a pressure for you to stay within your timeline. And before I take any questions, I'll share with this. When I work with people and I do career consultations, I tell people there are 3 worlds you can live in. You can live in the real world. The real world is life is hard, you have to work hard, the economy is bad, you have to save money, you have to blah, 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 blah. You have to have the money first before you start any new venture. You shouldn't take that trip. You need to save more money. Well, you might as well just have a backup plan. And, that's the real world. That's where most people live. That's where my parents lived. That's what they taught me how to do. It's never worked for me. And then there's a second world, which I call Fantasyland. Fantasyland is you can have absolutely anything. As long as it's something that makes you happy, even if it's totally impossible. And it's not the real world at all. It's a total fantasy. And that's where you live. And you go to Fantasyland to allow yourself to really, really imagine, what you don't deserve and what you shouldn't have and all of that stuff. And then there's a third world. And the third world is called Compromise Land. Compromise Land is where you go, yeah, I want to be this. I don't want this, So I guess I can handle this. This is, I would do that. I'd be okay with that. I mean, if I could just do that and sort of have that one job, I mean, I would take that one job as long as I had some spare time, and then I could do my hobby in my spare time, and that then I could save up. That's compromise land. That's where almost everybody goes when I start taking them down the road of finding their greatest joy in their life. They almost always will they'll dip a toe into fantasy land, and then they'll immediately jump back into compromise land. And they think that they're making progress. And I say, so there's really only two worlds. There's the real world and there's the fantasy land, and compromise land is actually it's the suburbs of the real world. There's only one place to go. All right, so those are the three choices. Identify your emotional attachments, be willing to release them, make your dream impossible. Now I'll take a look and see if there are any questions. Ricky Green. It's not a question. Claire DeLune, question. According to timelines theory, is there some spiritual meaning of deja vu moments? Thank you. Who cares? How does that help you? Is it interesting? It doesn't interest me. I don't really care. I mean, maybe we can come up with something. I guess, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. I know that's not very interesting. It would be fun if I went off on something. But I guess the reason why I don't like that question, here's why. It's not a practical question. There's nothing in that question that helps me to create my most intensely beautiful fantasy reality. It's a way to disconnect. It's a way to just get stuck in your intellect. Now I could be wrong. Now if somebody can show me that deja vu is somehow a portal to another realm that will give you extra powers or something like that, maybe. But to me, it just sounds like a distraction. So to be honest, I don't know, and I personally don't care. Becoming a magi. So services, what are you talking about? If you bought, like, let's say the lockdown package, this happens all the time. It annoys the crap out of me. It's not your fault, but oh my God, this happens so many times. People will buy a service from me on PayPal, and they'll have a different PayPal address than, it'll be an old PayPal address or something like that. So bear in mind, I only get the PayPal announcement that says you had bought something, and I respond directly to your PayPal account. So it's either going to another account or it's going into your spam folder because I put links in there. So I'm willing to bet it's in your spam folder. Okay? Becoming a magi. I don't know when you bought it, unless it was in the last hour or two. I've already sent you the links, and it's in your spam folder. The lockdown. So check your spam folder. It's probably there. And again, that annoys the crap out of me too. People don't check. They just, where is it? I mean, some people have gone months, and then they'll contact me and say, when am I going to get my product? I'm like, who the hell are you? And I sent it to you like sometimes I see it right away, and I go, oh, and I give it to you right away. And then weeks later, you guys wait. I know you're supposed to wait like a day or two, but, because I may be off doing something, but yeah. So when do we begin this work? As soon as what'll happen is you will be given instructions on how to make an appointment with me. So as soon as you can find an appointment, it'll start that soon. It's up to you. You sent a message on Facebook. Don't message me on Facebook. I'm never there. The best way to send me a message if you're not a client is on the YouTube comment section, or if you are a client is to email me. Please don't message me on Facebook. I never go there. Ricky Green, question: do you place any spiritual significance to synchronicities on an animist path? Of course I do. We live in linear time. We experience linear time. Linear time is an illusion. Now, the only reason I know that isn't because I'm able to leave that illusion. I'm part of that linear illusion just like you are. Without getting too specific, I have interactions, I believe I have interactions with spiritual beings that are here working with me and helping me. And the things that come to me and the things that happen after the fact, when I think about it, and the synchronicities and the coincidences, and literally sometimes the things that I'm given, the only way that being could have aligned scenarios to work out in a certain way, or to give me certain knowledge, or to help me find certain actual things, the only way that could have happened is if that being is not in linear time. In other words, that being is in the present and the future and the past, and is able to seemingly skirt all kinds of things in order to get things to me in ways that the only way they could have done that is if they're not in linear time. So synchronicities are part of that. Deja vu might be part of that. Claire asked about deja vu. So that could be part of that as well. So yeah, I do place spiritual significance on synchronicities. I don't place everything on them. Like, I don't live my whole life based on them, but I definitely listen to them. And I definitely pay attention, but I always wait to see if they prove themselves. I've shared numerous times about just before the pandemic hit, a python crawled up my driveway, and as soon as it got past my property line, it died. And that was such a major symbol. I knew that, I didn't know. I presumed and I felt that, okay, somebody's trying to get a signal to me. I didn't know what it was. I came up with a few ideas, and then the pandemic hit, and I realized that snakes represent viruses. And so that could be taken as a sign, don't worry, you're safe. Now, I don't know that yet because the pandemic hasn't ended. I am choosing to believe that, but I don't know. That is a real good sign because the pandemic hadn't hit yet. And so if that was an omen and some being did that in order to give me a symbol that I would understand, because it's an astrological symbol, then that being would have to have been in the future to know when to give me that signal beforehand. But I won't know until this whole thing is over. That's what I mean. I don't always take everything at face value, but that could be a synchronicity. All right, there you go. All right, so what I'm going to do next is this is going to be a manifestation mastery course. I'm going to make another video, and I'm going to talk about the most important thing you need to know in order to get step 3 to work for you. So step 3 is to make your dream impossible. In order to be able to actually do that, there is one very important psychological flaw that we all have. That if you're not able to identify it, it can actually prevent you from pretty much anything. I'm going to make that available to everybody. I'm going to put it on the Manifestation Mastery course on the Patreon channel. But because this is lockdown time, I'm going to go ahead and have it be for free so that anybody can watch it. And Becoming a Magi said, okay, it's in my spam. Yeah, I guess I should put something on there that says, check your spam folder. I should probably do that. All right, so that's it for me. I'm going to make another video right after this and upload it to the Manifestation Mastery course. So go look for that in the next couple of hours if you want. Thanks, guys, for showing up. That's it for me today. I will see you guys when I see you, hopefully very soon.